Remember those little cards? Little notepads, notes. There it is. You're a mover.
You're a shaker.
22 years ago this month, our final speaker gave a speech to this august gathering, launching a project that endures to this day. Today, he has another speech with another project in mind. Speaking from the cranky old man manual, let's welcome him, DTM Jordan Camenker.
9/11 was still fresh in our memory. We'd been attacked by a barbaric adversary, and it conjured up thoughts of Athens and Sparta. And I wondered, do the ancients still have anything to teach us? And so I launched our Great Books of the Western World reading group, and we started reading that collection put together by, I think, Encyclopedia Britannica and a bunch of eggheads that got together in the 50s. They created a 10-year reading list and then modified it in the 80s, excommunicating a few great writers and adding a few others. We decided to do everybody in both lists, and instead of 10 years, it took us about 18, but we loved it. We started again at the 19th year, and this time we interspersed contemporary works of meaning with the ancient works. We'll be meeting in roughly 10 days. I go to academic conferences all the time. I've been going to conferences of one sort or another for over 50 years. And I've had conversations again and again and again and again. And I was reminded by an essay I saw yesterday, written by some wanting to be anonymous Ivy League professor. And he saw what all of us are seeing. There is an unraveling taking place, and we don't want to come to grips with it. The people who come through our schools, all of our schools, they write less well, they think less deeply, they express themselves less clearly. People enter college with roughly an 8th or 9th grade reading ability, and I'm just not talking about state colleges. They often don't read their textbooks. Here's one. I really like this. By the way, McGraw-Hill is a great publisher, and this is Dynamic Business Law. It's over 1,000 pages. And they came up with another one. Dynamic Business Law, The Essentials. It's roughly 2/5 of the length of this. Well, I go to these conferences that they put on. They want our feedback on what they're about to come up with next. They do all kinds of interesting things. I won one of their teaching competitions. And they wanted to know what I thought about their latest. And I said, you really should rename that book. And again, they do a great job. But what it should be called is Dynamic Business Law, The Essentials, because we know you're not going to read it anyway. And they don't. This is what notes looked like. These were the notes that we'd take before class 45, 50 years ago. And then we'd highlight them. And these are the notes we'd take in class, and then we'd go over them afterwards. Students don't take up a pen, most of them, all over the country. They're not taking notes, and we're accepting this. This is what a textbook looked like. I couldn't afford a real book back then, so I had to get the 3rd or 4th time it had been used. But you'd go ahead and write in the textbook, and you'd highlight, and you'd question what the authors were saying, and you'd come back around. We see some very pristine textbooks, if we see them at all, because they're mostly digital. There is an unraveling taking place. Students are, by degrees of magnitude, more anxious, depressed. Young people are more unfocused. They lack a sense of purpose. They have 10,000 friends, and almost none of them are real. They don't congregate in clubs like this. Service clubs, membership is dwindling all over the United States. They're at risk. And of course, they are therefore easy prey to the high priests of social media. They get these little sound bites and they buy into anything. And they are far less kind. And it's affecting us too, of course. The likelihood of reading something like War and Peace, oh my gosh. There was a Frontline episode in 2010 where professors at places like MIT and Stanford were saying that students now have to be entertained. They can't just read stuff. And even we, the professors, hear books about this. It's not just me ranting. Christine Rosen, The Extinction of Experience. What happens when we're engaging with machines rather than human beings? Johann Hari, Stolen Focus. I've got more of these if you'd like to look. So what is the deal? AI is coming along, and that's going to make everything wonderful. There was a movie some years back, Idiocracy. Do you remember it? And in the future, some kid who had been in suspended animation or a coma or something realizes when he comes up hundreds of years later, he's the smartest guy around. Students asked me once, why do we have to take math in college if we're not going to use it in our major? And I said, when I was in high school, 2 of us lettered all 3 years in track. And every practice, the coach made us do push-ups. Not once in those 3 years, and I was one of those 2 guys, did we ever have a meet where there was a push-up event. But the push-ups made us better at every single thing we did compete in. AI is going to take jobs, and jobs give people purpose, and they are going to be more disconnected and less kind and easier prey for all of the people who want them to follow their hordes. We have to be the finger in the dike. We have to be it. With great power comes great responsibility. We're going to save our society. I will be meeting on the 13th for the great books, and at 1 o'clock, we'll start talking about this as we save our society.